Yuan is amazing. That's the intro, no beating around the bush. And today I'll be breaking down why she's great, what her kit consists of, her combos, how to build her, and who works well with her. Let's break down ZenlessZoneZero's newest and honestly craziest DPS. Yuan, like most other characters, have her kit and playstyle revolve around her core skill. So let's see what we're working with here. To start, her additional ability reads that so long as you have a support or a same faction character, Yuan receives 30% crit rate for 10 seconds after using an enhanced special attack, chain attack, or her ultimate. Free stats are always terrific, but 30% crit rate? That's more than she gains from a 4th slot main stat disk drive. Her core skill reads when Yuan is under suppressive mode, using enhanced shot shells increase her damage by 20%. When attacking stunned enemies, this damage buff is increased by an additional 20%. Before I continue to break this down, I'm just going to say that I'm calling these shotgun shells because I'm going to get them mixed up if I don't. Suppressive mode refers to one of the 2 different basic attack states that Yuan has. When Yuan is in assault mode, the other basic attack state, she does low damage but can obtain shotgun shells. Simply left clicking or pressing your basic attack input will begin assault mode's 6-part basic attack combo. What's important to take away from this is that you gain additional shells when you reach the 4th and 5th part of her basic attack. The 4th part of her basic attack combo can be identified by Yuan doing a mid-air spin and shooting around her, and the 5th is when she steps back for a moment to then re-engage and do a semi-spin in mid-air again. Additionally, her basic attack and overall movement in this form is similar to that of Grace, where she can move around the enemies and map smoothly. Let's talk suppressive mode though. This is where most of Yuan's damage actually comes from. If you hold down the basic attack button or hold down left click, Yuan will swap guns and use a shotgun looking weapon. When attacking in this form, each shot that Yuan takes will completely consume 1 shotgun shell, but in exchange they are also infused with ether damage / apply corruption, which is pretty strong. The first part of the suppressive basic attack combo is a flip followed by a shotgun blast. The second is when Yuan extends her arm forward and shoots a singular shell. And the third is this quick sequence of 3 shots that also consume 3 bullets total. Corruption Anomaly is great since it can confuse enemies and force them to attack their allies. Interestingly enough, Yuan's other abilities like her EX Special, Chain Attack, Evasive Assist Counter, and Ultimate also provide shotgun shells, but this time they provide 3 shells as opposed to her basic attack's 1. On the topic of her special attack, let's take a look at what it has to offer. When Yuan has below 60 energy, using her special attack will make it harder for the enemies to interrupt her and will cause her to shoot, dealing ether damage. Yuan can repeat this 3 times in a row by pressing her special attack 3 times, but in truth this skill is not really worth pressing if you don't have energy. When she does have 60 or more energy, Yuan shoots a series of ether buckshots that explode and also provide her with 3 shotgun shells. Don't sleep on the skill since it does have an insane damage and daze multiplier. There is something that I've skipped out on mentioning, but it is important if you are someone who likes to min-max. This is your warning now though if you want to skip this section. There are a set of combos or inputs you can apply to change Yuan's basic attack combos both in assault and in suppression mode. If you hold a direction when doing her basic attack string, she actually changes the attack combo in different ways. By default, this is what Yuan's basic attack combo looks like as I mentioned previously. But if you choose to move left or right when inputting this attack string, take a look at the difference this makes. Alternatively, if you choose to hold forward or back, Yuan can do a forward or back flip and further adjust the default combo as well. There's a lot more to this, but keep in mind that you can add these directional inputs during different parts of the basic attack combo, so this makes things even more complex. I do acknowledge that this might be a lot to take in though. So, put simply, most of Yuan's kit is set up in gathering shotgun shells so that she can enter suppressive mode and do loads of damage. The next thing we should talk about is skill priority. Yuan's damage distribution favors basic attacks, so this is the first skill you would look to focus on. Afterward, you'll look to upgrade her chain attacks since you will be using them constantly to generate shotgun shells, and also because it upgrades your ultimate damage. The final 3 skills we haven't mentioned yet are her assist, her special attack, and her dodge, and her special attack is definitely the next most important for damage, especially considering you're going to be using it quite often to generate shells. Quick assists follow soon after, considering you will be swapping from Nicole to Yuan frequently too, and although dodge is last, keep in mind that the difference between upgrading dodge and upgrading quick assist is typically not that big, since you aren't always able to guarantee dodges or quick assists. In terms of how to approach combat with Yuan, there are two kinds of combos worth using and remembering that we'll call the normal and boss combos. The first combo we'll discuss is for dealing with non-boss enemies / when a boss isn't stunned, and that's the normal combo. The other combo, the boss combo, is for when dealing with the boss after they are stunned. The normal combo involves chaining basic attacks and pressing left click constantly while generating shotgun shells through any means. Between the two combos, this one has more flexibility to change, and the goal here is really just to clump enemies together or to build up shotgun shells / energy before the enemy becomes dazed. Assault mode basic attacks are going to be your bread and butter here so that you can maintain damage while not consuming energy or your shells. However, keep in mind that the multiplier of these attacks are very low. Boss combo, by contrast, is definitely more precise and higher damage. It also has better ways to take advantage of the min-maxing I mentioned earlier, but let's break things down. First, you do want to gather at least 4 bullets and some energy before entering the stun phase. Then, perform a chain attack on Yuan, chain over to Ambi or your stunner, chain one more time to Nicole, and then the final piece of the puzzle is a quick assist from Nicole to Yuan, who now officially begins the boss combo. From here, Yuan unloads her shotgun shells and replenishes them with her EX skill or her ultimate to then unload her shotgun shells again. This is the much simpler and straightforward game plan, however it does deal respectable and very high damage still. If you are looking to min-max here though, there are variations that I want to bring up for both the assault and suppression modes. Let's start with assault. The first variation is just the default basic attack string that allows you to deal ether damage and also generates shotgun shells. The second, however, is a slightly faster variation of the first, where you include a sideways attack input after performing the first basic attack in the combo. This allows you to skip the second longer basic attack and also continue the combo with a third, fourth, and fifth part. The main advantage for using this optimization is so that you can gain shotgun shells faster and avoid attacking with a low damage combo for longer. For suppressive mode, the first variation is simply building up the energy and shotgun shells as usual and then unloading into the enemy. However, the second variation is to similarly include the first basic attack of the suppressive combo and then follow it with a sideways basic attack. After all this, finish the attack off with the 3 back-to-back shotgun shots so you avoid the second slower attack altogether. Small optimizations like this, plus keeping track of how many shells you have, allow you to increase your total DPS, but this is absolutely not mandatory to make her shine. Side note, I know most of you won't end up using combos like this, but I do think it's genuinely refreshing to see that there's such depth to Yuan. Her kit at base is honestly not terribly complicated, but you do have the ability to discover and optimize her even more if you want to reach her ceiling. This, in my opinion, is the golden balance of character design. She appeals to players who just want an easy to play character, but also appeals to diehard min-maxers who can spend hours trying to figure out the limits to her kit. Now on that note, we do have to talk about the major flaw I've been putting off up until now, which is that some variations or combos are just not worth it or very difficult to pull off. If you're fighting enemies that aren't stunned, being able to perform every min-max variation will definitely feel harder, and they come with pretty bad punishments. Enemies will swing at you, shoot at you from behind, and sometimes even knock you over, and this is a major problem, especially if you don't have enough health to survive in a game that has no healing. With all this though, there are definitely moments where the optimizations or min-maxes shine, but there are also many moments where you will get punished for trying to do a stylish or min-max combo, all for the sake of 3 to 5% damage increase, and you end up losing way more because you got hit. That was a lot though, let's get into her best set. Yuan, like other DPSs, do have a few options for which sets you can use on her. She definitely performs best on 4-piece chaotic metal when she can take advantage of the ether damage and crit damage increases, but this is dependent on applying the attribute anomaly and dealing damage during this window. 4-piece puffer electro, Hormone Punk, or Woodpecker also perform well on her if you can maintain their passive effects, but each set is dependent on what team you're running and which boss encounter or fight you're about to face. In truth, the best set will definitely be one of the 4 here, but it's ultimately up to your playstyle, how likely you are to maintain the set effect, and actually just which set rolled best for you. The same can be said when it comes to the 2-piece set effect, but I personally recommend using Chaotic Metal as the 4-piece and Woodpecker as your 2-piece, since virtually everyone can take advantage of the Woodpecker set. Chaotic Metal also being in the same domain as Swing Jazz is also really cool since you're likely going to be farming Swing Jazz for supports anyways. Let's talk about Yuan's weapons though. Yuan's best W engine is kind of a toss-up, but there is math to back up 3 great options for her. The first is her signature, which makes the most sense because it gives crit rate, crit damage, and skill damage increases. However, Starlight engine and Brimstone are also very competitive to her signature too. The main reason for this is that Starlight Engine and Brimstone both provide attack increases to a kit that doesn't buff its own attack at any point, and that's on top of her not taking attack buffers as teammates. More on the team composition thing later, but as a small note in general, the higher concentration of one stat that you commit to in games like this, the better it is to focus on other stats. What I mean by this is that overflowing with a single stat like attack percent for instance can actually lead to other stats like element percent or pen ratio gaining value when you have them instead. Let's talk main stats and substats now. Keeping what I just mentioned about evenly distributing stats in mind, Yuan does want to balance her crit rate and crit damage in a 1:2 ratio. That being said, she does have a lot of ways to receive crit in her kit. Between her additional ability and her signature weapon also providing crit rate if you get it, Yuan has a potential 50% crit ratio even before accounting for disk drives. Some of this is conditional of course, but it is worth keeping in mind when balancing her main stats and which one you want to choose. With this, Yuan definitely wants to run a crit rate or crit damage 4th slot disk drive, an ether damage percent 5th slot disk drive, and an attack percent 6th slot disk drive. Depending on how much attack percent you have, you could argue that swapping off her 6th slot to pen ratio or swapping the ether damage percent to attack could make sense. However, at the moment, this seems unlikely since there aren't that many sources of ether in the game, and since she also doesn't have that many attack increases in her kit by default, it doesn't seem like attack percent will get saturated. So long as you maintain the 1:2 crit ratio and fish for attack percent when you can, you are golden. Ideally though, a build with 50 crit rate, 75 after additional ability, and 140 crit damage should be possible, especially if you have her weapon and everything leveled to level 50 minimum. And now on to Mindscapes. Yuan's first Mindscape definitely feels like a quality of life change, similar to how Ellen's did, but it's tough to say at the moment with all the possible optimizations if there isn't a way to take even more advantage of these added shotgun shells. Even without them though, this is a weight lifted off your back if you are someone who doesn't like to count shells, or if you end up needing to do chain attacks / ultimates without being in a set rotation. The other standout Mindscape for me is her 4th, but unfortunately it does feel kind of boring. However, it is literally just penetration towards resistance, so it is a big damage increase. Now things like her 2nd, 3rd, and 5th Mindscape all will generally increase her total damage, and in general they don't really change the way that you play Yuan, so it kind of just feels like you're simply paying more money to just do slightly more damage. You aren't even really getting a cool flashy effect or even making your life easier, like you could argue with her first Mindscape. Side note, the 6th Mindscape looks really insane damage increase wise, but it's certainly harder to label or define since it affects so many different variables all at once. This is probably a huge damage increase though. And now finally, let's talk team compositions. The strength of this team outside of their accessibility is the defense shred, the ether damage increase from Nicole, the increased stun rate from Ambi since she synergizes with Nicole and gains her additional ability, and the black hole from Nicole that allows Yuan to hit multiple enemies at once. Admittedly, Ambi does kind of feel like a weird character to slot in here since she doesn't share a faction or element with Yuan, but she does synergize with Nicole, who you definitely want to pair with Yuan for the ether related buffs and the defense shred. With this, I do have a few other options to offer, but they definitely feel wasteful or maybe even unnecessary considering how high performing the full free-to-play team really is. Lycone Sokaku just to get higher attack and also increase the stun damage multiplier could be valuable in some cases, but keep in mind that this is in exchange for crit rate, defense shred, and ether damage. It's difficult to say whether the benefits from Sokaku Lycone are even worth it in exchange for what she loses by not taking Nicole and Ambi, but it is worth looking into and exploring, especially if for some reason you're allergic to Ambi and Nicole. The final team that I'd suggest is definitely going to be Kaleda Lucy as the fire version of Lycone Sokaku, but honestly neither of these teams are really as justifiable as just taking Ambi and Nicole. Now, I did also read your guys' feedback on wanting a few rotations or tips on how to play these teams, so here's what you can try or what you should look for when utilizing these teams. The double ice team aims to stun the boss or enemies with Light Cone to then swap off to Sukaku as the buffer. You swap to Yuan and completely decimate with the newfound attack increase and stun multiplier. Another small tip is that you can actually look to stun the non-boss enemies first with Light Cone's EX skill, so that you can do a chain attack, gain iframes, swap to your DPS, or just instantly clear them. Lucy Kaleda perform in a similar manner, but something I haven't seen many people talk about is the backwards position swapping that you can perform with Lucy. When Lucy normally uses her special attack, you can quick assist forward to your damage dealer. However, if your damage dealer has a long animation on one of their skills like Juyen's third basic during her suppressive mode, you can actually try swapping backwards to Lucy via the C key on desktop. If you do this at the start of Juyen's combo, you can drastically decrease the total amount of time waiting for an animation to go off. This is obviously really nice if you don't want to just stare at Juyen do a really long animation, but keep in mind that you do have to make sure that Juyen is off the field before you swap back. This, however, refreshes the attack increase from Lucy's special attack, and the key inputs to do this combo after Juyen is mid-fire: C, E, wait for Juyen to go off field, spacebar, and return back to Juyen. That's going to be it for this guide to Juyen though, guys. I apologize, some of the sections I know are very long. However, she is really cool because she has a lot of hidden tech to discover. If you enjoyed today's video though, as always, make sure to like, comment, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe. I appreciate all the support that you guys have been giving me when it comes to ZenlessZoneZero content recently. And even on stream, I've seen a couple of you guys show up. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks again for watching, everyone. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye. Whoa, you made it to the end of another Kana video. Woo! I hope you guys enjoyed it. This one took a lot of time. I really like Juyen, and I'm gonna play Juyen. I'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye. YouTube recommended this video, by the way. Bye-bye. YouTube recommended this video for you, by the way. Bye-bye.